Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Social Strategy Podcast or whatever. My voice is clearly a little bit gone, but we're gonna move past that or whatever. It is week 8 in the Big Brother 23 house. Woo! I can't do that. It's week 8 in the Big Brother 23 house or whatever. And we're getting towards the end of this game, which is interesting. What the heck? At the beginning of the week, Derek X had been evicted from the Big Brother house. Tiffany won the head of household. She nominated Sarah Beth and Kyland. Xavier was the third nominee because of the twist. Claire won the coin of destiny. She used it. Well, whatever. She nominated Sarah Beth and Kyland. Hannah wins the power of veto. She uses it on Xavier. Final nominees are Sarah Beth and Kyland. 2 nominees. Yay. So Sarah Beth and Kyland are on the block. Tiffany is the head of household. And the cookout is about to win this game. Clearly. As of now, Sarah Beth is going home, and that will make the top 8 all 6 of the cookout members, along with Alyssa and Claire. This game is basically which member of the cookout is going to win. Everyone else is irrelevant, basically. Excuse me. So we're going to be looking at mostly how the people in the cookout are setting themselves up for the win, for the end game and stuff like that. We can go ahead and get into it and deep dive into this week, I guess, to the players' games. So looking at Alyssa, with her game has been deteriorating since basically Christian left, because at that point, going into the jury, the cookout had already kind of seized control of the game, kind of took the game by its neck, shook it around a little bit, you know what I'm saying? So Alyssa's already been in a tough position this week. She's been playing decently. She's been doing things that can help her game. She's been trying to make deals with Ozza. She has a close relationship with Xavier. She's trying to set herself up for the end game, which is all good. And Oz is somebody who would be good for her to take to the end game in a normal or in a regular season, I guess, or in a different season. But in this season, Oz is a part of the majority alliance and Alyssa is not. So that sucks. Alyssa is in a very, very bad position because she's not in the cookout. It is very possible that Alyssa could be the 7th person to make it to final 7 with the cookout. So that's top 7. Congratulations, you know. But even that is kind of iffy. It's not really certain that she will even make that. One path for Alyssa to get to the end of this game is possibly if Kyland continues to rub people the wrong way. And at type 7, people are encouraged to just take Kyland out, and then after that, it'll be the triple, and then the battle against the inner war against the cookout could maybe cause them to take each other out. And then Alyssa could be in the final 4 with someone like Xavier, and it's like, oh, maybe she makes it to the end. But even then, she's not likely to win the game. So it doesn't really matter. And that happening isn't necessarily likely. I feel like once they get to this, if they get to the 7 with all the cookout there and she's the 7th person, I feel like it's going to be a little bit of it's going to be very hard for someone to go ahead and chop that off and not get them all to the 6, because getting to the 6 is going to be so monumental. So the closer they get, I feel like the more the less likely it really is for someone to get cut off or anything like that. So at the 7, unless Alyssa wins a comp, I feel like she's going to get just chopped off right there. But she could win a comp. And then it's like, oop. So, I mean, she has kind of a chance, but not really. And even if she makes it, she's not really going to win. So there's just not much left of her game left. Her game kind of ended when jury hit, and it was kind of official that the cookout was running this game for real, for real. So there's just not much for Alyssa left. I'll give her a 3 out of a 10. I feel like she's still a decent player in general, but her position is just so bad. There's not much she can do at all. But hey, she's here. Next person to talk about is Ozza. Ozza is in the cookout. Ozza is becoming a lot more, I feel, strategic in the game. She's starting to be more and more open about what she wants to do at the end of the game. More and more like interested in trying to win this game. I think Ozza overall has actually played a pretty good game. Ozza is one of the last 2 people to not be nominated. Technically, Xavier wasn't really nominated. It was all... Both times he was nominated was by a twist. So, but anyways, Ozza's one of the 2/3 people who haven't been nominated yet in this game. And that is kind of a testament to her social game. Even though some people just don't feel threatened by her, some people not feeling threatened by you is good. And also on top of that, people just genuinely like her. When Sarah Beth is talking about her, people she trusts and people she like in the game, she mentioned Ozza, which was interesting to me because it showed me that Ozza really does have relationships that we may not be noticing, or that we may not be giving her the credit for, because people like Derek X, Sarah Beth, Alyssa, all really like Ozza. So these are people outside of that alliance that genuinely like Ozza and genuinely just don't want to target Ozza. Anyways, Claire likes Ozza. So it shows that Ozza really does have a really, really good social game. She has not been nominated. I don't expect her to be nominated until maybe even a few weeks from now. And that's really good. That's really hard to do in Big Brother, even if you're a pawn per se. Even if you're someone who's no one's threatened by, you still usually get nominated as a pawn. No one has used Ozza as a pawn this entire game. No one has achieved their goal of targeting Ozza or anything. Like, she's barely been a talk of conversation because she's likable. So that's really good for her. Ozza, I feel like, kind of, whether she did it intentionally or not, I feel like Ozza kind of capitalized on her image in the house. I know Ozza seems like she's kind of lost sometimes and that she seems like she's kind of like unaware of things, but I do think Ozza is kind of leaning into that a lot in this house because she knows that it can help her achieve this persona of how she is, of being, I'm just a floater and something I want to remember when thinking about Ozza is that her idols were June and Allison. And if your idols were June and Allison, and if she genuinely is a fan of this game, how she talks as she is, then maybe she is intentionally leaning into her floater label. Like, maybe she genuinely does want to be perceived the way she is being perceived. Like, maybe she does want to be perceived as not such a game player and this and this. I know when she's talking to the house guests and even in the diary rooms, she doesn't say that this is an act. But she doesn't have to. There's a lot of people who haven't said anything in the diary room about how they're playing the game. In every season, there's people who lie to the diary room. There's people who don't say things. I think, and even if it's, and it's possible that it's not even conscious of her. Maybe she's not even like actively thinking, let me do this, but just naturally doing it because she knows it'll help her get farther, I just feel like she doesn't have to voice that if that's what she's doing. And I think it is possible that either accidentally or on purpose, she's trying to seem more less threatening or more of a floater so that she can continue to be a floater. If Ozil at the beginning of this game, and she did kind of hint that she wanted to float in the preseason. So if Ozza throughout this game is trying to float, and if you look at Ozza's game in the lens that Ozza wanted to be a floater, then she's playing a phenomenal game because she's doing really good at being a floater. At this point in the game, no one's looking at her as a as a target. They're just looking at her as a potential ally. Everyone sees her as a potential ally, and that's the perfect position to be in. The thing is that if Ozil makes it to the 6, which she most likely will with all the rest of the cookout, no one really is going to target her, but she could end up leaving at 4 because she doesn't have any final 2 deals. Or even if she makes it to the end, she may not get those votes to win, unless she makes it to the end and she's like, I wanted to play that way. I chose to act this way, this way, this way. I chose to float by doing this, this, and this because that was my game, because that's what I wanted to do. From the beginning, I decided I'm going to pretend that I'm not this strategic, da, 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 da. She has a case if she wants to use that case. And I think Ozil's chances are winning are way more likely than people are giving her credit for, if she is actually being a little bit more intentional than we think about what she's doing. And I think that potential is important to talk about, especially going into this end game. Right now, I give Ozil like a 6 out of 10, just because I'm not. This is all speculation, literally. I could literally just be wrong, and Ozil could literally just be walking around not caring at all, and she could not have a case built. But I know she's smart. I know she wants to play the game. I know she has a passion for the game. I know she knows the game. So even if she goes in the end and lies and says that this was what she wanted to do, and it's just a bold-faced lie, that still gives her way more potential to win the game than she previously had. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because I feel like this week kind of is showing me that she might have that mindset, that winner mindset in the back of her head, which might lead her to genuinely wanting to do this, or genuinely saying something like this, which is really good. The next person to talk about is Claire. There's not much to say. Claire might make it to the 7, but if she makes it to the 7, it's less likely that she will win a competition than it is for Alyssa. Claire's in a bad position because she's not in the cookout. She might go next week. I feel like it's a little more likely for Claire to go next week than Alyssa, just because I feel like a guy might be able to win the next comp more than her. She has to throw the next HOH, so she's way more vulnerable than Alyssa. She won this coup d'etat thing, and she didn't do anything that necessarily furthers her game because she's just helping Sarah Beth get out. So there's just not much there left for her. She's kind of just out of this game. She isn't even like actively okay. She is set up, and she's been set up for the end game for a while, but she's still not doing much with that. Even if the cookout wasn't a thing and Claire made it to the end with Hannah, Ozza, and Tiffany, I feel like Claire would just lose anyways. I feel like Claire just hasn't done enough but like kind of follow Tiffany around. And that's not good. But it's still possible that Claire can make it to the 7 and maybe squeeze her way. But I feel like it's less likely than Alyssa doing that. So I'm going to give her a 2 out of 10. There's not much else to say. Next is Derek F. I feel like Derek F is just kind of a GOAT in this game. There's not much to his game. He thinks he's doing more than he is. And all the people going to jury is aware that Derek F's game is kind of a joke. So he doesn't have much potential in a final 2 with anyone, unless they're not in the cookout. Then he's like, he kind of might get the votes. But he's probably not going to make it to the end with someone not in the cookout. So I feel like Derek F is of the 6, Derek F is the least likely to win the game. And that's not good. But he is in the 6, and he probably will be one of the most likely people to make it to the final 2. So that is good for him. But second place isn't the goal. The goal is first place. And he's just not a good player. He's not necessarily doing anything that's helping his game. He's trying to keep the guys together, which is good. I don't know if that's good for his game because he's going to lose to both of the guys. So it's probably better for him to keep the guys apart so that him and Ozza can end up in final 2, and then he might have a higher chance of winning. Ozza's his best bet, but he's kind of taking the Kyle and Xavier route, which is also bad for his game. So I'm not going to even continue to talk about Derek F. There's not much to say. He's not playing good. He's not in a good position. He's not going to get the jury votes. And if he makes it to the final 2, he's a GOAT. So that's just that on that. With that being said, I'll give Derek F like a 4 out of 10. I feel like it's just so not likely that he will win ever. But he could really make it to the final two, which is good. The next person is Hannah. Hannah is, I feel like, probably the best positioned in the cookout. She doesn't have anyone targeting her. No one really wants her out. A lot of people do want to take her to the end. Tiffany and Xavier both do. Kyland might even also want to take her to the end. So that's a lot of people. But the issue is that those three people are her biggest competition in the jury votes. I feel like Hannah's going to have a hard time winning the jury votes, but I don't think it's as hard of a time as other people think. When I think about Hannah making it to the end with Xavier, at first I was kind of like, oh, she has no chance. But now that we're moving along and Hannah's using vetoes, winning competitions, and Derek X isn't here, so it's like this is just Hannah, it's kind of making me think that Hannah could build a case saying, oh, I used Derek X for the beginning of this game. I let him loose. And then at the end of this game, I took the game in my own hands. And I can see that argument being more compelling than Xavier saying, oh, well, no one ever targeted me. You know, like, what did really Xavier do? I think Claire, Derek X, and Tiffany will be vouching for Hannah in the jury if she makes it to the end with Xavier. And I feel like those Derek X and Tiffany will be two of the most influential people in the jury. And I think people like Brittany, people like Azza might be like, they're kind of right. And then right there, that's 5 votes right there. That's enough. You know, I feel like Brittany might be inclined to vote a woman. You got to remember, like, yes, Xavier played decently and has decent bonds, but Brittany and Azza might be like, I kind of want to vote a woman. Sarah Beth and Xavier aren't that close for her to just automatically give him her vote. Sarah Beth could be like, I've been targeting Hannah since pre-jury and no one wanted to target her. That's a testament to her game. I could see these people actually voting for Hannah over Xavier, and I think Hannah's preparing her speech against him already, so that's really good for her. So I think Hannah's in a good position, and I don't think she's just not going to get that vote against these people. I think the hardest person to get the votes against is going to be Tiffany. But I think it's more likely for her to get to the end with Xavier. And if that happens, she might be able to actually win. And I think it's way more likely for her to win than it was a few weeks ago. I'm going to give Hannah an 8 out of 10. I think she's playing a good game. I think she has a good path to the final two. And I think she could get those votes to win the game. Hannah is kind of the person to beat right now. Kyland. I am sick of Kyland. What is he doing? Kyland is playing very horribly. Kyland was playing horribly his HOH week. He kind of played good on Sarah Beth's HOH, but he's still been rubbing people the wrong way for like 4, 5, 6 weeks now. At this point, Kyland's just not that good of a player. I think he has a lot of good capabilities as a player, but in general as a player, he's not necessarily a good player. And I feel like Kyland needs to fix that. I think he's the first target of the 6. And going into the end game, he's going to be like most likely the person to go either before Final 6 or at Final 6. I think the only way for Kyland to make it to the end is if he wins out, which is kind of likely, but I don't even know if that's necessarily true. He's not that good at comps. So I don't know. I just feel like Kyland is in a very sticky position, even though he's in the cookout. I feel like his ability to win is more than maybe Azza and Big D, but that's still not, you're still in the bottom 3, sister, you know? So with that being said, I'm probably going to give Kyland a 5 out of 10. I feel like there's not much to say other than his game isn't that good and he's not in that good of a position. Sarah Beth is going home. I'm not talking about her. Tiffany. I feel like Tiffany, of the people in the cookout, is the most strategic. I feel like she's doing a very, very good job at separating Xavier and Kyland. I feel like Tiffany has a good amount of people rooting for her in the jury. I feel like Tiffany could easily get the jury votes against anyone in the 6. But I think Tiffany's hardest thing is going to be getting to the end. Even if she separates Xavier and Kyland probably will just go first. And then if Xavier continues to win, at the end of the day, he's going to probably take Hannah over Tiffany, which is not good, which means Tiffany isn't going to make it to the end. Tiffany's doing a lot of good work, but it's still going to be difficult for her to make it to the end unless she wins those competitions, which she could still do. Tiffany has a good possibility. She's still a great player. She could still manipulate people at the end game, but it's going to be a tricky path for her to get there, I feel. But I still think it's very likely. I have a lot of faith in Tiffany, but according to what's happening in the game, it's scary to look at the end game for her. Tiffany did good this week with HOH. She did good preparing a bond with Alyssa so that if next week something happens, Alyssa won't target her. She's good with the jury votes already, so I'll give Tiffany like a 7 out of 10. She's definitely not in the best place of the cookout, but it's still there. She still got it. Last but not least, Xavier. Xavier is decently positioned in the cookout, but I feel like he is on the brink of losing that position because of this rift with Kyland. Because now that he has this rift with Kyland, he kind of has a rift with Derek F., which means he's kind of forced to work with Tiffany and Hannah, but Tiffany is plotting against him, which is bad. I feel like the path that Xavier had at first before this week was way more clear than it is this week. If Tiffany or Hannah or the wrong person wins a competition at the end game, Xavier could end up going. If Kylan wins an HOH, Xavier could, you're out of here. I feel like Tiffany's going to be pushing for Xavier to be out, you know? So I don't know. I'm scared. I feel like he still has the most likelihood to win the game because he is good at comps. He is still positioned very well. Not the most, but a high likelihood. But I still feel like Hannah's more likely than him to really get to the end and really win. I just lost, I guess, faith in Xavier's game as this week came about. I feel like he's not that good of a player, and I feel like he never was that good of a player. He just was a decent player that ended up in a very good position. And he didn't even necessarily actively put himself in that position. So I feel like as a game player, Xavier is a little bit lesser than Hannah, Tiffany, maybe even Kylan. Well, Kylan has a lot of flaws. So Hannah and Tiff, I feel like he's like third. And then I just feel like his position is just weakening, but he is really good at competitions. He's actually good at competitions, so that's really going to help him. It kind of evens him out. But at this point, I have to give Xavier like a 7 out of 10. Yeah. This is a good season. I like the way the season is going. I hope that the cookout can make it to the top 6. But since the triple's coming up, we're kind of going to miss all of that drama. But it is what it is. I'm excited to see how it ends up and if Hannah, Tiffany, or Xavier wins, or if someone else wins. I don't see anyone but those 3 winning. But I don't know. It's still interesting. There's more to come. Is next week the possible triple? I think the end of next week. Anyways. Or is it the week? Whatever. So I'm done. We're going to see how this season continues to pan out, how this end game is really going to end up looking. I feel like next week we're going to get a lot of content about exactly what's going to happen at the 6. And that triple might be coming. So that's really something that they're going to have to be focused about. So, all right. I'm done. I'll see you guys next week. Toodles.